Welcome back to New to Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and today I have a very special guest. I'm so excited to have her. We have Miss Lauren Brachfeld, and she is a recent college graduate who is here locally in Arizona. So she enjoys the beautiful sunny degree days that we're having. Sorry to everyone out in the Midwest. But we have her on today because she is someone that's going to provide a lot of value to everybody who's thinking about medical sales college. I've had my opinions, I've made videos about them, but what I really wanted to do was get somebody who's actually currently in medical sales college going through the process and just sharing their experience to help people, and also just give their thoughts. So this is something I get a lot of questions asked, but again, I have my opinion, but I'm the person. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what's best for you. But I want to make sure you guys have all the information to make your own decision what would be best for you. Like I said, if you guys have watched the podcast, I was a pretty determined person. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend money and do this. And also, I should put that I'm a cheap dude. I'm a really cheap dude. I moved out here with $1,200. I still act like I have $1,200, like I live that way. So that for me, that was never an option, and we've had guests that have done it, but we haven't really spoken a lot about the process, what it looked like. So this is for those people that are trying to break in and they're deciding, should I go to medical sales college or should I go get a B2B sales job or what should I be doing? And if I do go to medical sales college, what to expect when we get there. So Lauren's about to drop a lot of knowledge. I'm so excited to have her. Lauren, thanks for jumping on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. So Lauren, real quick, before we jump into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background and how you even found medical sales college?
Of course. So born and raised in Arizona. From a young age, I've always kind of been interested in medicine. Both of my parents are doctors. My dad is an OBGYN. My mom is a family doctor. When I was younger, if my parents couldn't get a babysitter, I would go with my dad on rounds. I would go with him to the hospital. I'd watch him. If the patient was okay with it, I'd watch deliveries. That became routine to me. And then I stopped wanting a babysitter and I'd be like, hey dad, can I just go make rounds with you? And it was like a really cool way for us to bond as well as me to learn a lot of really fascinating information. And as I was growing up with both my parents being doctors, people were constantly like, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be a doctor? And that was something that interested me, but I wasn't like, I don't know, something was holding me back from going full on into the pre-med route. And when it came time to go into college, I became fascinated with psychology. I love psychology. One of my majors was psychology. The other one was sociology. And throughout my college career, I thought that I was going to get my PhD and I wanted to be a professor. So totally took a 180 and was like, yeah, I want to go into research and I want to teach, and worked in research labs all throughout college. Loved it, but something was still missing. It wasn't the right fit. I just knew, something was missing. So I did some soul searching a little bit, and one thing you'll learn about me is that I love learning and I love school. And I became immersed into yoga and I wanted to deepen my practice. So I took my yoga teacher training with no intention of being a yoga teacher. I just kind of wanted to dive deeper into the information. And then that pivoted me off on a short yoga teaching journey, which was great, but then something was still missing. So I did some networking. I was talking to people at the yoga studio, and someone mentioned, she was a nurse. She was like, have you ever thought about going into medical device sales? She's like, you have an incredible personality. She's like, people just love being around you, talking to you. You're extremely smart and helpful. And she's like, I could totally see you in that field. And I was like, I didn't even know something like that existed. So I just I did a bunch of research and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. This is the exact fit. I always kind of knew I wanted to teach someone, whether it was yoga or whether I was a professor, but I didn't know who I wanted to teach and I didn't know how I could insert medicine into it. Yep. So it's amazing that this is just like the mesh of everything.
I love that. No, and it's funny that you said it. Mine's the exact same story. I was a personal trainer, and I loved it. I just had a lot of people who kept saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about this? And I didn't know it. And as you guys have probably heard on the podcast, I'm a very determined person. I'm an all or nothing person. So when someone asked me about it, I'm not even kidding. When I spent 3 weeks of watching nothing but videos and listened to 100 podcasts of just medical device sales, learning about it, trying to do it like what you're saying, and the thing that I want to just touch on, you're going to go so far is just loving to learn. I'm the same way. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always listening to education, reading articles to try to learn. But that's something in this field that I've been told a million times, like, hey, I've been in it for 20 years. I learn something new every single day. That's reps I've had the conversation. So I think that's important with everyone who is thinking about going into it. You are teaching, but you have to love the art of learning because there's always new technology. There's always new research coming out, and you being able to find that match that fits you. Cause I'm the same thing. I love people. I love relationships. I love to teach, again, personal training, helping people be the best person, but also, their other side of things as well. So I love that you're able to find that. Now, when you found medical device sales, you saw that, right? How did you find medical sales college, and what did that kind of look for you during that process to be like, hey, should I go to this or not?
Right. So when I was researching medical device sales, I probably wasn't doing the right type of research. I didn't look into podcasts, which was really dumb of me. I wasn't taking advantage of the resources that I had, or I didn't realize that those resources were at my fingertips. And I kept on seeing things about medical sales college. They're really good at selling themselves, and
Yeah.
I was getting advertisements everywhere. Yeah, it was just showing up everywhere. And I was reaching out to recruiters on MedReps because I heard that was a good place to
Yeah.
apply to jobs. And they kept on saying to me, you need more B2B sales, you need more experience, essentially. And I was like, well, I don't see myself working in a sales job for ADP or for something like that for
Yep.
2 years. And I was trying to kind of look for a route that would allow me to show that I'm committed to this and I'm really, really interested in this. But I, I was trying to look for an alternate route, essentially.
Yeah. And maybe a faster route for
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. Expedited.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And yeah, so that brought me to medical device sales college. When I was applying for it, they claimed that they only accept, sorry.
No, you're good. You're fine.
They claim that they only accept 25% of, or 25% of their
Yeah.
applicants. I was like, well, you know what? I'll just apply. I mean, I've never really had a hard time getting into things. So oh, geez, sorry. Trying to put my stuff on quiet. Sorry.
You're
Okay,
fine.
there we go. Now we're good. So I thought that I would apply and kind of just see what the application process was like. I thought it was a good experience for me to kind of get those interviews and talk to people that were in the industry and
Yeah.
just, yeah, see where it took me. And the more I learned about it, the more I was like, wow, this actually seems like a pretty good fit for me.
I love it. I love it. And I do just want to touch base again, not to put anything, but great at sales, right? 25% of people get in. Whereas, like it's always funny to me because I worked for people who worked on an online business, and that's actually one I always laugh because that's a tactic, right? Like, hey, if I put a product for $99 and I cut it, and now it's $39.99. Now you think you're getting a deal. Again, so again, this isn't to talk down on anything. I just do want you guys to understand, maybe start thinking in a different mindset, because there is a lot of money and psychology that goes into trying to do sales with it as well. So you found it, and then once you got into medical sales college, right? You're now there. What week are you currently in? On how many weeks in the program? And then can you kind of tell us about the division? Because I know there's, again, I don't know all of them, but I know there's several quote unquote divisions that you can go into your training.
Right. Yeah. So I will be starting my 6th week, which will be halfway. I will be starting my halfway point.
Okay, so 12 weeks is the program.
Yes, the weeks are, it's 12 weeks total. And my program is specifically for orthopedics, extremities, and trauma.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's been one that I've heard. And you're in person, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I know there's the in-person one, and then they also have an online
Yes.
version as well. That's like 8 weeks.
Or sorry, this is actually, I'm in the hybrid one. The first
Okay.
week, the first week was online, and then we also have a second week that will be online, and then the rest are in person.
Okay.
So it's actually hybrid. But
So they give you a couple options to do it, which is nice. Of they have an online. I know one that was like 8 weeks that was all online. There maybe a little cheaper option and stuff. So going into that, so you're in there. So far, can you kind of tell us about your experience, your first 6 weeks? What has that looked like? What's a normal day for you, during medical sales college?
So Monday through Thursday, the hours are 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Occasionally you get out a little bit later, occasionally you get out a little bit earlier, and then Fridays from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Mhm.
A day in medical sales college kind of varies. Some days we'll be lecturing and there are a lot of PowerPoints. Other days are really hands-on and you're working with in a sawbone lab.
Yep.
Um, I definitely think that I've only worked with 3 different teachers right now. I can definitely say that some of the teachers are much better than the others,
Mhm.
which is unfortunate because you think that if you're paying a lot or as much as you do pay for the tuition, that they would really ensure that they're getting top-notch people.
Mhm.
Um, uh, yeah, so the typical day we'll look at we haven't really gotten into sales training yet. We're
Yeah.
mostly looking at like orthopedics
Okay, can we talk about sales training real quick? When is sales training for that program out of 12 weeks?
last week, which
Oh,
is very
interesting.
frustrating.
So I always laugh because I get a call from a lot of people. And again, this is just to help the viewers that are listening, right? That's been something I've heard many times is if you already have an exercise science degree like myself or a physiology degree, and I hear a majority of time that's what they're going on through the first 10 weeks or whatever it is, and then there's, hey, I needed to learn how to sell. They always put it at the very end, dangle the carrot of like, hey, stick it out and you'll learn on it the last week. Again, just touching, I think it's a great tactic. Or not tactic. I think it's a great thing that they do to set up for their business, but just something for everybody to hear that because that has been a frustration that I've personally heard from candidates who reach out to me that are in it is they're like, I need to learn how to sell. That's why I'm going to this college. And I don't learn it till the last week. And I don't know if that's enough time. And so I just want to get your feedback on that. What's your thoughts? And also during the labs, are you learning a lot? Do you feel like it's very beneficial or is it, what's your thoughts on it right now?
Yeah, so for the labs themselves, I love the labs. They're extremely hands-on. I One thing I don't like is that we don't get to perform all the steps. It's kind of like we switch off taking steps. So like for example, this last week we focused on trauma, but
Mhm.
I'll move it back to 2 weeks ago. We were working on total hip arthroplasties. And we would each get to kind of like do one step. So like one person would ream the femur, and then the next person would come in, or sorry, ream the acetabulum, and then the next person would come in and fit the plate to the acetabulum. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like we got to go through each step doing it ourselves. We kind of just switched off, and then we'd watch like somebody else complete the
Yep.
next. Um, as far as like learning really in depth, I believe that I have like I know a lot about TKAs and a lot about
Love it.
THAs, but if I do get into THAs or TKAs, I know that a company is going to make sure that I really, really, really
Yeah.
know in and out. It's cool to go to have that background as I love learning, but
Yep.
as far as it being a necessity with the whole sales training being the last week, that has kind of been a common discussion between me and some of my classmates that it's the majority of us when we went into this program, it was to get sales training more.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like it's very anatomy and or like it's very um, based on anatomy, like we were discussing.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing I do want to just say is I do want to touch on I think it's such a great thing that they do go into it for somebody who doesn't know, like that is the point of medical sales college. Like, I don't want it to always seem like I'm bashing on them or like I don't think it's worth it. I do want to say I think it's a great like if you didn't know and it's a resource. I think they do a great job from what I've heard. Again, I don't have experience of talking about it, showing you of things like, hey, this is what you would go for. And if you're just trying to get a background because now like you said, you could go and talk about a total hip or hip arthroplasty and actually just have a conversation with a rep or and if you didn't go there you wouldn't be able to speak about it before at least to the detail. So again, I do always say that is like I think medical sales college is for that person who is trying to learn more, trying to get a better background, and I think that's what they are great for is giving you that I, a good rounded, I shouldn't say well rounded, but like good rounded like background of what medical sales is, what you could expect. But like you said, waiting to do sales, a company's going to teach you. That has been always been my big teaching point, or like my big point I've talked with everybody on is it's if you're going for trauma, correct, or if you're going for orthopedics and you get an orthopedics, it's awesome. The amount of times I hear people who go to the trauma and orthopedics who get something in capital or get something in something different. Again, you've got the great value of learning the talk, the lingo, everything you're in the experience, but it's not, you're going to have to go through all this training again for 2 to 4 weeks and go through everything to make sure you do it. And this is always my joke. I think I was talking to you about it or someone else, but it was, you know, if you're doing hips and your product you get hired for is hips, you don't care about the knee. Like the
Right.
knee has nothing to do with you. And that's what always, like, I love the anatomy and I agree with it. But like if my product's one piece of the body, I don't care about any other part of the body because I just need to know my landmarks for my product because that's where I'm going to be
Exactly.
the expert in. So again, I always just try to show that to everybody who is considering. There's just a lot of things to look at, but again, I think medical sales college does a great job of giving you a well-rounded background, of looking at like, hey, this is, if you did go into trauma, or if this is what you're going into, this is something you would actually be seeing and you'd be getting in your training. And again, this is for the person who is doesn't know anything about sales, or they don't know anything about medical sales and they're just trying to get that learning and that educational piece. So I do say, like, to the benefit of medical sales college, I think that is a great point and it's a resource for that.
One other thing that I do like that they do is in each week we have a day devoted to looking at the products in that category, and we have to each like present
Yeah,
essentially the feature benefit values are of that product, and provide clinical research that
yeah,
we be able to show to a surgeon that would allow us to like back up.
I love it. And because again, that's what you're gonna have to profile and you're gonna have to be able to speak to it. And it's teaching you how to do that. So again, I don't want this when I do these podcasts about medical sales college, because everyone knows my feelings. I don't want it to seem like I don't think it's valuable at all or think about, like, I think it has a lot of great value. Again, I just tell everybody it's what fits you the best. So going into that, I've heard different prices. Again, not to get too into it, but like, can you give a well-rounded, if somebody's looking at medical sales college, it's 12 weeks or 8 weeks, what's a price point that they're looking at going to?
When I was going, or when I paid for it, I believe the base tuition was $14,000, and
Okay.
then this is kind of where things get a little interesting. They charge $350 for their MD Rep Track. That's their software. It's kind of like it's supposed to be a little bit like a CRM system. It has loads of information, but we essentially had to pay for a service that's not really completely done. They're not finished. There's a lot of parts of the service that are red that you can't actually click on,
Okay.
and anything that is in the software you have to fill out. So like it'll have like blank templates, and then we basically had to pay for our homework. Is how
I
I
got you. I got you.
it's you would think that that would come with the tuition, but
Yeah.
that isn't included. And then once you graduate, you have to pay $350 a year to continue to use that software, which is
Okay.
interesting.
So if you're looking at medical sales college, you're going to the 12-week program. It's looking more at like $15,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, no right or wrong. It's just what you guys feel comfortable with. Like I've heard a lot of people, they want to go spend, 15K is a great investment. If this is going to be a job the rest of your life, it gets your foot in the door and it saves you 2 years of, working and doing the B2B sales experience. Again, where I just tell everybody, I felt like I was more motivated than a lot of human beings and I'm a cheap person. So that just led to me not doing any of it, and getting my job. But again, I don't think there's a right or wrong for anybody. It's just what you feel comfortable. Do you feel comfortable spending that kind of cash and doing an investment on that and going through the process? But also, this is going to lead us into the next segment, or the next question is, what are you doing to get a job or to ensure that you have a job once you get out of medical sales college? Because that is the thing I want people to understand. I saw what they learned at medical sales college, and I always just thought to myself, hey, I can reach out to 100 reps, and all the 100 reps are going to tell me their actual experience. I'm going to learn all this information that I need to know, and I'm still going to have to network and try to get myself a job in the interview. With medical sales college, when you go to it, are you just given a job afterwards? Because that's something I want to clarify for everybody listening, because this is something that has been a stigma, I think, around it, is if you go to medical sales college, you are promised a job once you leave.
I cannot emphasize enough that you will need to put in the work necessary to get a job. Just because you go to medical sales college, you're not just paying 15 grand and boop, you got a job. Like
Hmm.
you're still putting the work in. If if you expect that you're just going to get a job after graduating, you're going to be in for a rude awakening.
Hmm.
I was talking with one of my classmates, and or a student mentioned basically that they were expecting employers to reach out to them once we graduated. And it's like, I don't know what world you think you're in, but
Hmm.
no one's
Yeah.
gonna just to be like, hey, I want you to come work.
Oh, I saw you went to medical sales college. We're going to give you this huge job when we have 200 people applying for the exact same job. And,
Exactly.
I say this because that's what something I really want people to know. And I think medical sales college, from my experience of people I've told to, it's been 50-50. I had a couple people tell me, hey, they made it very clear I'm going to have to still put in all the work to get this to get this job. But again, I think that's where medical sales is a step up, where it's like, hey, if you're going out, if you're doing all this work, so is somebody else, but you have medical sales college and they don't, maybe that's going to show that you're a little more committed, that you put in it. But that was something when people asked me, recruiters would always be like, you go into medical sales college. And I would actually talk to other reps and regional managers, and the stigma around it. And again, I'm not saying it was correct or incorrect, but the stigma around it was like, it's kind of like college. You go to college, you go to 4 years, you come out with debt, and now you're like, where's my job? Guess what? They don't care about your job. You got to go get your job.
Exactly.
Um, and I just say that same thing. If you guys are going to medical sales college or whatever you're doing, you have to understand nothing's ever given. You're still going to have to put in all this work and time. And that is the actual talks I have when people like yourself call me. I'm like, hey, while you're going through college, make sure you're still doing all the networking and you're doing everything, because you're going to have to do it to get the job. Just like myself, it's what I did. I did everything that these kids are getting out of medical sales college, and they didn't do any of it during the time. They're 12 weeks in, didn't network at all. And now they're like looking for a job, and they're at start one. When I did the exact same thing with no sales experience, no medical sales college, did all of it, took 6 months, reached out to thousands of people. But by the end of my 6 months, I had 4 giant job offers.
Right. And also one thing that I do want to touch on is one thing that kind of frustrated me, that they didn't like emphasize when you were going into it, or applying for it. But when you're in the actual class, they really, really recommend not applying for jobs until after you graduate. And they, they emphasize that you should wait until after you have all the training before you start taking these steps, which, as a person that's incredibly motivated and wants to get into it, that is I couldn't do that. I was like,
Yeah.
I need to start reaching out to people. Like, this is just making me anxious, not talking to people. I have all these things at my fingertips.
Yeah, and this was something I have told. I talked with another rep. He had a buddy who went to medical sales college. He actually got a job during medical sales college. And what he told us was that he was refunded the
Yeah,
tuition, because it goes into their stats of getting a hired person. But he was refunded the tuition because he got a job while in it. Again, I don't know if that's still true, but I know for that candidate it was, because he told us that.
from my understanding, on their like when you're signing
Yep.
basically they say that once you're 60% of the way through the class, you cannot get any money back. But
Okay.
if you, for example, if you were like 40% done, you could get 60% of your money back.
I got you. Yep. You could still get some of your money back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just the talk. He said he got money back even though he got the job midway through
Right.
college. Again, and I think while you're doing it, a great reason to reach out. I understand their point of, hey, make sure you focus on it so you can learn it. But in the same realm, it doesn't do you any good to have a piece of paper and not have any connections, because now you're starting it all over and trying to get a job. And again, I want just to keep emphasizing, this is not a bash. This is just real life. I'm just trying to add as much benefit to people. So if you are going to medical sales college, that's awesome. I'm glad you made the decision and that was the right choice for you. But don't think you're just going to get a job offer right after. You still better be putting in the work, putting in the time, and you're just showing when you went to medical sales college, you're committed. And I also do just want to always put this, because we say committed, but I don't even want to say all the time that you're more committed. Maybe you just had more money, because I know a lot of people who don't have 15 grand to drop and don't want to go in debt, who are still committed to trying to break in, that I talk to.
Totally. I feel very fortunate because I got a lot of academic scholarships
Yeah.
going to, and my parents were very kind to save up money for me to go to college. So I had a lot of money that was not used, which was part of the reason that I was okay with spending the money to go to medical sales college. But I think that if this, like, it's very frustrating to hear that a lot of my classmates are in debt now because
Mhm.
of the situation. And yeah, I don't know if I if I were to be going into debt to do this, I don't know if I would make the same decision.
Mhm. Yeah, and again, just to put this out there, it's everyone's personal choice. Like, and I agree. That's the reason I didn't go. I didn't see the value of the money to put it in. But if you're someone who's listening and you feel like that $15,000 would help your career for the rest of your life, maybe it is the right choice. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever you you think's best. Also, now going into it, I want to talk about what you're doing during this time to ensure that you're getting a job. I know we touched on it, but I want you to like kind of go in detail because I'm going to talk about what you're doing because I already know, and this is why I know you will be successful and you'll have a job very soon. But would love to just have you share what you're doing to ensure that.
Well, first off, listen to the words that come out of Jacob's mouth because he's a very intelligent person and has a lot of wise words to share. But networking overall has just changed my life. Talking to people, specifically surgeons, has immensely helped. People are a lot nicer than you would expect. I think that at first I was almost like scared to reach out to people, which is stupid because that's what the whole industry is. And I didn't realize how willing people are to help. Um, so just taking advantage of those resources that you have at your fingertips at the yoga studio that I was working at, there's so many healthcare workers there. Eh, I didn't even think to, a lot of them are my friends, so I didn't even think to like talk to them necessarily about like the industry. But once I started telling people that that's what I was trying to get into, the conversations just naturally started sparking. They'd be like, "Oh my god, I want to introduce you to this person because you guys would totally hit it off." And um, just tell as many people as you can, like telling as many people as you can what you're trying to do, and just talking about your goals, I think gets you that much closer to achieving them.
Yep. Just
I've
take it into life.
Yeah, exactly. I've asked as many surgeons as I can. Hey, if there's any, fortunately, I know some of them because
Yeah.
of yoga studio
100%.
and
Yep.
my parents. You can't just I wouldn't just reach out to someone and be like, hey, let me shadow you.
Yeah.
You need to like establish that relationship first. But with COVID currently, it's made things a little bit difficult. But just reaching out to people and asking them, I just want to learn, not necessarily I want to meet these people. Just like if there's anything I can learn or just watch, I would love to be there.
Yep.
And it just seems like things keep on falling into place.
I love it. And so everybody who's listening, please listen to what just came out of her mouth. Reached out to ask to learn, not to see what she could get from somebody, not to see what she could take from someone, a job or anything, but she wanted to learn because as we've talked about in this podcast is this is a teaching profession. Even surgeons, they're teaching people all the time while they're going. They're learning, their students always, but also as a rep, people want to teach. So when you go in and you're trying to make those relationships, it's always asking, what can I learn from you? Because people love to help other people. I joke around when I'm on the phone with someone and they're calling me and asking me, I'm like, people like to talk about themselves and share their experiences, just like I'm doing with you right now. Because that's just human nature. But like you said, being able to go in with a mind of like, hey, I'm just wanting to learn instead of, hey, I want to get this from you or I need you to say this for me. It's going to take your search and your process to a whole nother level. So I love that you just stated that. And the thing I want to touch on again is I just had a podcast last week about this, and I told you guys the golden goose. The golden goose is the surgeon. And I say this is if the person you're trying to get, if you're trying to get into medical sales, right? The A lot of times the surgeon is the person you're going after because they're going to use your product. If you can go to the person who's going to use your product and they like you and they're seeing reps and they put your name out there, guess who has a real good shot of meeting the manager that's selling those products? Because and I always say this from another standpoint, if you've never thought about this, if you're with company A and you like a surgeon and the surgeon likes you and you start talking to them and there's company B, maybe company B is going to be offering you a job because if the surgeon likes you and you worked for company B, maybe he'd switch from company A to company B and now give them all this business plus get probably some of his partners, and now there's job that just opened up for you. And that's a real thing that happened. I had companies offer me and they're like, hey, send me because I'm a personal trainer and I knew a lot of doctors. How many doctors do you know? Let's see how much volume they did. If they did 300,000 or maybe they did $500,000 and they can hire you as an associate for 60K. Oh, that's an awesome deal because we just got a competitor doctor that we didn't have and we just made more money and got new relationships and we're making this big of a profit. Like that's what people don't think about. So if you are someone listening and you have the quote unquote golden goose, a surgeon or that person, if they like you have them help you because that will go a long way. And like you said, just going in and shadowing, it's going to take a long way because if you're with them and they have a rep come in, which they will because they're a doctor and they're using products and they can ask who you are or they can introduce you to someone, they just got your foot in the door compared to you applying online, which I just put out a podcast about. It's going to go way farther.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So again, everybody just listening, I think that's a great advice that she's saying. And again, it's always coming down to networking. It's reaching out. I say it till I'm blue in the face, like I say on this podcast almost every time now. You guys can look for the magic formula. I'm telling you the magic formula. It's someone that's going to get you hired. It's not what you know. It's not this magic certificate that you have printed out that says you took a course, that you took a certification. It's going to be someone likes you enough to take a chance on you. And that's what's going to get your foot in the door.
Also, listening to your podcast as well as a few other medical device sales podcasts,
Yeah,
completely changed. Changed my perspective as well as introduced new ideas to me.
I love it.
I instead of listening to music now, like in the car, I'm just listening to podcasts. It's amazing. So.
Yeah, and I always encourage other people to listen to so many podcasts because I might say something and another guy might or another girl might say something and it it hits you when they said it, not when I said it, or they have a whole different spin. Like my favorite one, and I'm gonna put them out there is Road to Medical Sales. My friend Scott Macon, like him and Sarah have an amazing podcast, and they're who I listen to a lot of times when I was trying to break in. But also, like Scott just won Rep of the Year. He has a lot of experience. Same with Sarah, she's a great rep. Like they're gonna be able to tell you things and give you stuff that I could never give you. I can just give you my experience, and also it's what I learned, as as a yoga teacher and a personal trainer. Everybody has different fits. Not every client that I trained was a good fit for me, but might have been a good fit for another trainer. So like you said, reaching out, trying to learn as much as you can. That's what I'm always about. It doesn't have to be me. It has to be someone that you can get advice and you feel like you're getting value from. And I think that's a great thing that you're saying is, don't just stick to one person because it might work for that one person, but if you're not like that one person, it might not work for you, or you might not just like feel the energy vibe or like listening to them. I know I don't shut up. So maybe some people are like, man, dude, shut up, slow down a little bit and let us enjoy our life.
No, not at all. The thing I appreciate about your podcast is I don't have to speed it up. Every other podcast, I put it at a little bit faster because people talk too slow. Program. So no, I appreciate that about you.
I love it. All right. So Lauren, again, I appreciate you going into great detail with everything. I'm hoping that the listeners that are just on the edge that are thinking again, I don't want this to come off like it was a negative thing. What I've always preached when I'm on a phone call with people, I don't care if you like it or you don't like it. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to tell you my experience and I'm going to tell you the truth. And I hope, if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to what you're in your situation, what you're looking for. I just want to touch on the three big things. Really, there's three routes when you're trying to break into medical sales. You can go to that B2B that everybody talks about. That's a route. Understand that you're probably looking at a year to 3 years of breaking in, doing good at a Centos, a ADP, one of those places, trying to get President Club winner. Once you've done good or grown a good territory, then you're applying for the associate role. That's one option. Option number two, medical sales college. I think it's a great option as well, because if you're someone who doesn't have any experience, you don't have any sales experience, this is a way, like you said, to show that you're committed, that you are interested. It's going to be a financial commitment as well, but to give you a great opportunity to learn what you don't know. Because I tell people it would have been a great experience for me as well. If I didn't know anything about medical sales, instead of talking to all these reps, I could have been just talking. You're going to a class and getting taught from people in the industry. So I think that's also, I'm getting a little feedback, also a great tip. And then the third one is like what we've just talked about, just networking with as many people as possible, which you're going to have to do with all the other ones, and just do what you can to break in and get, it only takes one. That's always been my motto. If you reach out to 1,000 people, you just need one person to say, I want to take a chance on you.
Totally.
So those are really the three options. There's probably another avenue that I missed. But with that, I want to get your advice. If someone is going to reach out to you and say, Lauren, because this is what happens all the time, they'll reach out, Lauren, I'm thinking about medical sales college. I want your honest opinion. What would your advice to me be? And again, this is, I want this to be stated. This is Lauren's opinion. This isn't the end all be all, like, but this is what Lauren feels. And I want everybody to like respect that, for everyone listening, because this is her experience, and just like my opinion is my experience.
So when it comes down to it, I definitely think that going to medical sales college has been a really a huge learning experience. I do love the aspect that you are able to network with people that have already been in the industry, and it's almost kind of like a 12-week interview. You're working one-on-one with these teachers, so they're going to see if you're showing up late. They're going to know if you're showing up late. They're going to know if you're not motivated. They're With those things in mind, it's kind of nice to have them as a reference that you can be like, hey, all of our grades are public. I didn't mention that too. We can all of my classmates, we can see each other's grades. And I
Mhm.
like that because I'm a competitive person. Well, so I liking school, that wasn't a problem for me, but I could understand why some people wouldn't like that. So putting putting yourself out there, and experiencing this is awesome. But again, I think that you can take what you've learned from podcasts or from other avenues, and you can learn similar things that you would learn in medical sales college. Again, I haven't completed I haven't completed the whole certification, but from what I have currently completed, I would say that it's not necessary to have this in depth of like anatomy and physiology and knowing this in depth about all these various products. It's a lot of information to shove into your head, which if you love learning, awesome, but it's not necessarily necessary.
Mhm.
If from my perspective.
Yeah, of course. No, and again, I appreciate you being honest. Again, that's I've had people on the podcast who really promote it and they think it was a great choice, and I've had other people, I the reason I started bringing this up is I started getting phone calls with people being in it and they had concerns. But I wanted to get someone who's currently in it, their thoughts. And again, this comes down to every that person that's individual. Like I always just say, when you're a truly highly motivated person, I don't know if I would go that route because you're already going to be putting in all this work. And my joke has always been, if you want to learn anatomy, go buy a book for $200
Exactly.
and teach yourself anatomy, or do the best thing, YouTube University. Like YouTube has so much great content that you can learn, so much. Or my favorite, what I will say till I'm dead, is reach out to the people doing the job right now, because they're going to tell you what they need and what they don't need. And that's just what I did. And there's going to be people, again, where they went to medical sales college and they're going to have their opinion, and people who didn't go to medical sales college and have their opinion. Just to like anything with ADP, no sales experience, everybody's going to have a different opinion. So I really just want to keep restating that there is no right or wrong answer. Whatever you do, it's just what's right for you at the time. If you want to maybe take a little longer time and go get sales experience somewhere else, if you want to spend a little more money but get, like she said, connections and networking and learning about the industry that you probably didn't know before. Or if it's like, hey, like even with myself, I knew I was going to work harder because I didn't have sales experience, but also understanding it might take me way longer. Maybe I could have gone to medical sales college and I would have broken after 3 months, instead of me with no sales experience and breaking in 6 months or a year or 2 years. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what you guys feel comfortable with doing. And that's what the thing I just want to restate. And I just want to bring people on bring guests on that can offer as much insight and information to you that's listening, because I'm really hoping, if you're that person on the fence and you're like, I don't know what I should do, that this podcast helped you make a decision that you feel at peace with. And that's every single time we do one of these podcasts. That's my goal, is just to help educate people and just hopefully get insight for whatever decision that they're looking for. So again, Lauren, I appreciate you so much just coming on. Again, I hope classes continue to keep going well. I know you're going to crush it. And everybody listening, I just want you guys to hear, when Lauren's talking, when she's here, she's happy. She's got good energy. That's something that's important when you guys are going into this job interview. Like people want to work with people they like, and the people are going to make an impact. And that's how you can tell when you're going through this interview process. And also that Lauren's already doing the work. She's reaching out to people, like she called me. That's how we connected. She found me and we started talking. And so that's my thing to everybody. No matter what you're doing, no matter what route you're doing, you got to put in the work to get where you're going. And that's why Lauren, I'm sure if you guys follow her on LinkedIn, by the time you're watching this, most likely will already have a job with a great company. So, again, Lauren, thank you so much for jumping on and appreciate your time.
Oh, yes, of course. And if anybody ever wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, please feel free. They're always welcome to.
Awesome. Appreciate it. If you guys are watching on YouTube, please press that like and subscribe button. If you guys are or listening on the podcast, 5-star reviews helps us all the time just to reach more people to help educate. And then again, I always touch on, I just delivered a new ebook called New to Medical Device Sales, where I share my experience, I share my journey, and I also show tangible things that you guys can do right now. I put my actual messages that I sent people, copy and paste. I put my whole business plan, my 30, 60, 90 things I did to get these job offers from 4 top 30 companies. I put that in, and I always just want to show this. This is never a money grab. This is just for someone who might want to take it to the next level or just wants to have something that they can see and that they can see how I did something. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.